Okay, this is one of those stories that sounds small until you actually understand what happened. Paula Copenhagen just flipped a 3-vote election. We're talking about the Republican primary for Indiana State Senate District 23 between incumbent Spencer Deary and challenger Paula Copenhaver. When the votes were originally counted, Deary won by 3 votes. 3 freaking votes. Not 300, not 3,000, 3. 3 votes separated an incumbent state senator from the woman trying to take his seat. Copenhaver requested a recount. Of course, I'm going to request a recount. Of course, you would be within your legal rights to do so. And now that recount has completely reversed itself. She went from losing by 3 to winning by 3. Here's the clip.
Paula Copenhaver requested a recount. It came after incumbent state senator Spencer Deary edged Copenhaver by just 3 votes. Well, now, according to our Indianapolis sister station, during a hearing today involving the Indiana Recount Commission, Copenhaver was formally certified as the winner. After the recount, she walked away with 6,332 votes, 3 more than incumbent state senator Spencer Deary's final tally of 6,329 votes. 8 votes originally cast for Deary were rejected. It remains to be seen if Deary will appeal the decision to the Indiana Court of Appeals.
Now, if this was simply a recount of an extremely close election, that would already be a story, right? But there's a political fight behind this race that makes it much more interesting, okay? Because Paula Copenhaver wasn't just challenging Deary. Donald Trump wanted Deary out. Why did Trump want Deary out? Why did he want that state senator to lose his job? Deary's a Republican, and he wasn't some Republican constantly fighting Donald Trump. The problem was one particular issue: redistricting. Trump wanted Indiana Republicans to redraw the state's congressional map in the middle of the decade. The political objective was obvious. Republicans wanted the possibility of gaining an additional Republican seat in Congress, but some Republican state senators in Indiana opposed doing it. Spencer Deary was one of them, and Donald Trump was not happy. Trump publicly went after Republican legislators who opposed that plan, and he endorsed challengers against some of them. Paula Copenhaver got Trump's endorsement against Deary, and that changes the way I look at this race, because this wasn't simply 2 Republicans want the same seat. This became, can a Republican tell Donald Trump no and survive the Republican primary? And for a while, the answer appeared to be yes. Deary survived, barely, but he survived. 3 votes. I don't care how ugly the win is. If I'm Spencer Deary on election night, I'm going to take it and run like he did. Put those 3 votes in a picture frame, will you? Because after Trump backed my opponent and all that political attention came into the race, I still won. If I was Deary, that's how I'd be thinking. Except he didn't. At least not according to the recount. You see what voting means? You see how you voting could make a difference. Voting matters. Copenhaver challenged more than the count. Here's where the story gets complicated. Count everything again. That's what she said. Part of her challenge involved allegations that people who were actually Democrats had crossed over and voted in the Republican primary. Indiana doesn't have party registration like some states do, but state law does have rules governing participation in a party primary. Copenhaver's side argued that some people had participated in the Republican primary specifically to help Deary and defeat Trump's preferred candidate. Her team even sought to question some voters about their participation. I actually think that's an important part of the story because it shows Copenhaver didn't just walk into this process and get everything she asked for. There were claims, objections, hearings, and the commissions made decisions. But here's the interesting part. That crossover voter argument is not what ultimately flipped this election. The ballots did. 8 ballots changed the winner. During the recount, the commission reviewed disputed ballots, and 8 ballots that had originally been counted for Spencer Deary were rejected. According to reporting on the decision, the issue involved required signatures or initials from election officials being missing. Think about that. 8 ballots. In most elections, 8 votes wouldn't even get mentioned in the newspaper. But Deary's entire margin was 3. So 8 ballots are enormous, big, earthquake. Once those ballots were rejected, the results changed. Spencer Deary went from winning by 3 votes to losing by 3 votes. And Paula COPENHAVER went from losing the Republican primary to being formally certified as the winner. Play the clip.
Spencer Deary went into the recount with a 3-vote lead, but the recount commission threw out a small number of those ballots because they did not have all the required signatures. Copenhaver's run against Deary was the last undecided race from the May primary. At stake was a Senate seat stretching from West Lafayette to the Illinois border.
It's a learning experience by far for everybody that's watching it, everything. The election process is exciting. There's not always a recount. This close.
State law requires absentee ballots to be initialed by 2 election judges. They also must bear the signature and the seal of the county clerk. The recount commission threw out 8 ballots for Deary because they lacked either the clerk's signature or one or both sets of judge initials. Copenhaver lost 2 ballots for the same reason. Now she is the winner by the same 3-vote margin.
Ballots don't get tossed for, a signature missing from a clerk.
Now that is what I call a recount. You walk into the building the loser, you walk out the winner. And the man who walked in there thinking he had survived the Trump back primary challenge walks out needing a lawyer. Because Deary has indicated that he intends to appeal. Of course he's going to appeal. And I understand why. Forget Republican and Democrat for a minute. There's a legitimate issue here that I think regular voters can understand. If I show up, legally cast my ballot, and an election official fails to properly sign or initial something that they're required to sign or initial, should my vote be thrown out? That's a serious question because the voter doesn't control what the election worker does after receiving the ballot. So if Deary believes those ballots should have counted, there's a legal process available to challenge that decision, and apparently he's going to do that. That's what courts are for, and that's also why I don't automatically look at this and scream fraud. A recount changing an election result does not automatically mean somebody stole an election. It means the election was close enough that disputed ballots matter. There's a difference between an administrative problem and proving somebody intentionally committed election fraud. If Deary believes the commission applied the law incorrectly, appeal it, of course. Bring the argument, bring the law, and let the court decide. That's how an election challenge is supposed to work. Now, let's go back to the politics because this is the part I'm really watching. Trump wanted Indiana Republicans to redraw their congressional map. Deary opposed it. Trump backed Deary's opponent. And unless Deary successfully appeals this decision, the opponent just knocked him out. What message does this send to other Republican politicians? That's the bigger story because politicians watch what happens to other politicians. The next time Donald Trump wants something from Republican state legislators, someone is going to remember Spencer Deary. They're going to remember that Deary opposed Trump on redistricting. Trump endorsed a challenger. Now Deary may be out of office. That creates political pressure. You don't even have to threaten anybody directly. The example doesn't work for you, and that's where I have a problem with loyalty politics. I don't care whether we're talking about Republicans or Democrats. If I elect you to represent my district, I expect you to represent my district. You're not supposed to be an employee of the president. You're supposed to agree. Sometimes you're going to agree with your party. Sometimes you're going to disagree. That's the entire reason we elect individual representatives. Otherwise, why have a legislature? Just let the president send everybody a text message. Here's how we're going to vote today. Deary made a decision about what he thought Indiana should do. His own party presidents disagreed. And Republican voters ultimately got to decide whether they wanted to punish him or not. That's democracy too. But let's be clear about what happened politically. Trump wanted this man gone. And right now, it looks like he got his wish by 3 votes.